Welcome to everyone here in person today, and to everyone who is visiting our service from home. We Unitarians of Lake Norman are an open and inclusive congregation. Our members walk diverse paths to find meaning and purpose, but we are united by our belief in the inherent worth and dignity of all, and by the responsibility to express our faith through acts of justice and compassion. My name is Regina Burchett, and I have been a Unitarian since 2012 and an active member of this congregation since 2017. I'd also like to add that you're welcome to subscribe to our weekly newsletter. Just click on the gold-colored box on the homepage of our website, which is uulakenorman.org. Our speaker today is Reverend Pat Jobe, who joined our fellowship in 2020. Pat is an enthusiastic supporter of Unitarians of Lake Norman, FeedNC, Heart of the Carolinas UU Animal Ministry, and all work done by UUs in our area. We start our services and other activities by lighting a candle within a chalice and speaking words that call us to this occasion. Please join me in saying today's chalice lighting words, which are in your order of service. Light this flaming chalice to illuminate the world we seek. In our search for truth, and our search for justice, may we be loving. And in loving, may we find peace. Oh, it worked. Reverend Pat will give our opening words.
It is also today Teresa Woody's birthday. And although it is a habit that I hope we don't replicate on every occasion, I think in light of her wonderful musical talent that we should sing Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to Teresa. Happy birthday to you. I wish I could bottle all my love for you. Wish I could put it in little bottles and hand it out on Sunday afternoons. Suffice it to say that yesterday at 2 events, it rolled through me like a soft rain, like sunshine on a cloudy day. I guess you'd say, what can make me feel this way is all of you. Our opening words come from the 44th chapter of Genesis in the Jewish Torah. It's the story of Joseph, and it takes about 13 chapters to tell. And I know you will all be relieved to know that I'm not going to read those 13 chapters as our opening words. But many of you are familiar with the story about how they came and they went in circles, and they put him in a well, and they pulled him out of the well, and they sold him to people coming through in slavery. And finally, after many, many years, when this little slave boy had graduated up to be the number 2 man in Egypt, his brothers showed up. And enough years had gone by that they didn't recognize him. He recognized them, but they didn't recognize him. And finally, he says to them, come closer, come closer. I am your brother Joseph, whom you sold into Egypt. Now, do not be grieved or angry with yourselves, because you sold me here, but God sent me ahead of you.
Teresa. And now Reverend Pat will talk to us about things happen for a reason.
I have been working on this message. Wait a minute. Let's breathe. Let's breathe. Notice the light. Notice this incredibly beautiful weather. Breathe, breathe, breathe. Notice that we're breathing the same air, that our hearts are beating together. I've been working on this message for a number of weeks. And I thought I pretty well had it written and ready to go. And then yesterday happened. I'm very grateful for so many of you getting behind the effort that probably raised more than $30,000 yesterday. But I was not prepared for what else happened. I'm not going to give you a lot of details, but let me just say that some negotiations are underway that might increase the level of support we give to the efforts against human trafficking in local high schools, to young women and men who are teaching their peers about how to avoid traffickers, how to teach basic safety, how to respect human sexuality for the sacred act that it is, producing the deepest connections between consenting partners and never something to be used in a cruel act of power and control that dehumanizes both the victim and the perpetrator. Now, that's all I'm going to say about this for now. More details to come. I'm hoping to whet your curiosity. And then something else happened yesterday. Something besides the wonderful affirmation of Jim Price. Jim, I know you heard it once or twice last night, but you are a wonderful human being. And we're so glad your mama kept on having babies after having your older sister. The other thing that happened yesterday was a piece I heard on NPR on a show called Radio Lab. I heard the story of a young man who was cured of leukemia by a bone marrow transplant. He was so grateful to be saved that he decided to give all honor and glory to Jesus. But the wrinkle in this story, and the reason I bring it to a group of my beloved Unitarians, is that the woman who gave him the bone marrow is an atheist. And as much as she admires his faith in Jesus, she is still an atheist. And as much as he is grateful to her for saving his life, he has no desire to bring her to a faith in his version of Jesus. The producers and narrator of the Radio Lab piece worked hard to find some logical common ground between these two people, and there was little, if any. The voices of these two people are full of love and mutual respect. It was a rarely Unitarian moment. And I say that because we dare to dream of a world in which the practitioners of all religions can also practice mutual respect with atheists. Yesterday, as this new idea was discussed for supporting teens who are working to end human trafficking, I mentioned that the topic of today's message is things happen for a reason. And one person who heard me say that asked, "You mean like today?" So here's the message I plan to deliver today. It's one of the most horrible ways people talk to those who have freshly lost a loved one. Well, you know, things happen for a reason. No, don't say that. Don't say that. We may not live on the roulette wheel of random universe, but the idea that things happen for a reason is so offensive when times are bad. Or is it? This one may throw us into a popcorn popper conversation. So y'all bring your best game. We're Unitarians, so we never say God needed another angel. We would not say those things when facing a grieving family after the passing of a loved one. But wait. What if this grieving family member says it to us? What are we going to do? Won't we just smile, nod, maybe offer a hug? In those terrible moments of loss, we do the best we can to let the chips fall where they may. But let's acknowledge here at the beginning that things happen for a reason is a wretched thing to say, especially to someone who is going through the worst of times. My former business partner, Charlie Milford, used to question folks who thanked God for saving their lives after a tornado had ripped through the trailer park and killed the guy next door. Charlie would say, "Oh, God saved you and killed that other guy." For some reason, all this brings to mind Abraham Lincoln. He failed in business, lost his bid for the U.S. Senate to Stephen Douglas, and was a one-term congressman when he decided to run for president. His election in 1860 started the Civil War. The Sons of the Confederacy tell a slightly different story, but that's for another time. At 57 years old, Lincoln had barely done anything worthy of note in his entire life. He was doomed across the next 4.5 years to oversee the fighting and winning of the bloodiest war in U.S. history. A dramatic story of organized insanity that ended legal slavery and kept the Union in one piece. 5 days after Lee surrendered Appomattox, he was assassinated. One would have to wonder whether some unseen hand had taken this failed businessman and one-term congressman and given him one of the worst jobs in history and then let him die once the job was done. It might make the argument that things happen for a reason. Maybe, maybe not. Now I'm going to tell you a very personal story that some of you are vaguely aware of and others not so much. In 2003, I left the Methodist ministry and joined the Unitarian Universalist Church in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Across the next 4 years, I would fail at business, start a television show that also failed after 15 episodes, get divorced, lose daily contact with 2 of my children, lose 2 houses in the meltdown of the mortgage market, break up with another romantic partner, and generally feel pretty much staggered and gut-shot. Although it sounds melodramatic, I felt as though I were twisting in the wind. Things happen for a reason. Don't try to tell me that. Not in 2007 anyway. But all that had to happen. Really? That is a deeply philosophical question, and we will bandy it about during the talkback. But one of the ways we affirm sometimes that things had to happen exactly as they did happen is because they did happen. The Buddhists like to say, it is what it is. Whether they happen for a reason or not, the stuff that happens is what happened. Run the clock forward just 1 more year, and I start doing the summer sermons for the UU in Spartanburg, meet Gabriel Rismeyer, get hired by the Greenville UU, and everything that transpired across the next 16 years was pretty darn spiffy. Still made mistakes and suffered a little at the hands of other people's ill will. But I know I had to fall into that deep hole during those bad years in order to climb back out during the 16 years that followed. It's a matter of cause and effect. To put it into strictly scientific terms, one thing leads to another. You all remember the story of the Chinese farmer. He found a horse, and his neighbor said, "How lucky for you." And he said, "We'll see." His son rode the horse, fell off, and broke his leg. His neighbor said, "How unlucky for you." And he said, "We'll see." The king's recruiters came through during a time of war and did not take his son because of the broken leg. And his neighbor said, "How lucky for you." And he said, "We'll see." I tend to be terribly, even illogically romantic. I read history and tend to romanticize the good twists in history, while noting that the evil twists rarely reach their goals. Gandhi said, "When I despair, I remember that all through history, the way of truth and love have always won. There have been tyrants and murderers, and for a time they can seem invincible, but in the end, they always fall. Think of it, always." Now that's quite a claim, especially the part about the way of truth and love always winning. Oh, how I hope and wish and believe it might well be true. But we sure are witnessing evil, the evil of hatred and lies coursing along a line that runs from Ukraine through Gaza into Sudan and so much of the Horn of Africa. 1 million Rohingya have been exiled off the coast of Bangladesh, but there is hope for him as Muhammad Yunus is the leader of that country and has such a heart for the poor. Yunus is a Nobel laureate for his creation of micro-lending institutions that have changed the lives of hundreds of thousands of small business people. Maybe the way of truth and love will triumph in that tortured part of the world. We can sure hope so. UNICEF is helping too. One more story, which I had told before, that maybe you have forgotten. I love this story. Carolyn Mays, as a young woman, had 2 job offers, one to the north and one to the south of where she lived. She asked her grandmother how she was to decide, and the grandmother said, "Ask for a sign." And not long after that, she found a feather on the ground that she believed was pointing north. And she knew she was to take the job in the north. She ran to her grandmother and exclaimed her great excitement at finding the feather. Her grandmother scolded her. "Why are you excited to find a feather? You might as well run all over the neighborhood and tell people your heart is beating, that air is coming in and out of your lungs. Life itself is wonderful, baby. Get over being excited about your feather." Now it's your turn. Do things happen for a reason? Is fate or God or dumb blind luck turning our pages in such a way to get certain jobs done, to move certain pieces on the chessboard of our lives? What do you think? And Regina's going to help me shepherd all of y'all. What do you think? I bet you've got some stories to tell.
Jane?
Jane. But Jane, come on up here so the people at home can see you on the camera.
They don't need
They need to see you.
I think things happen. They don't necessarily happen because we are being puppeted by an almighty. I think things happen, but we can create a reason out of them. We can create meaning. There's a wonderful book by Kate Bowler called "Everything Happens for a Reason and Other Lies I've Loved." And it's about her experience having what was probably going to be terminal colon cancer while she had just had her long-awaited baby, and it was just, her life was falling apart. And she had at the time been doing research on evangelical churches and the prosperity gospel of if you believe in God, everything will happen right for you. And they were saying everything happens for a reason. And it's sort of her refutation of that. And that's what I believe too. I've had some things happen in my life that were just plain hard, such as my husband's death. And you can't look at that and say, oh, this was supposed to happen. But you can look at it and live through a new meaning from it. And that's my feedback.
Thank you.
It's hard to top that one, isn't it?
I'll give it a try.
Susan, I don't think things happen for a reason, but I think when things happen, we make decisions and we deal with what happened. And that's where life is taking us, and where we go with it and how we look back at it and say, okay, now I'm going to go this way. And I think that is a way of, then you look back and you say, oh, it happened for a reason because I did that. No, you did that because you dealt with the problem that happened.
You gotta quit smoking those unfiltered cigarettes.
Well, I've been coming here for a number of years, and I often say that I believe in the hand of fate. Things happening for a reason. But sometimes, they don't happen for a reason, I guess. But in my own life, in my own trek, I've had so many things happen. I've had a very strange, crazy life, but Naomi seems to be in it every time. And when I was going for the cops, I was hanging out with her every day and every night. And all my friends were getting locked up or getting hooked on drugs, and stuff was going on that I was not involved with those people because I was with Naomi. And that was the period of time I needed to be arrest-free, if nothing else. And it worked out. I wound up getting on the cops. And then I got married to the woman who was supposed to be the one, from the same church in the same neighborhood. I was back and forth trying to make it work 4 different times, counting the marriage 3 other times. And the last one was the cops called it the knockout punch, round 4, the knockout punch. And that was the way it happened. And 2 weeks later, Naomi came back into my life. And that was 1990. So to me, if nothing else, she was supposed to happen in my life. And then we made our own decisions on where to go with that. So I agree with both things, I think.
Thank you, buddy. Thanks so much.
I think that things happen for a reason has many aspects to it. One is the personal aspect, and there's another aspect, there's a religious aspect, there's the secular aspect, and so we have to recognize all that. On a personal level, things happen, and you could say, from a secular point of view, they just happen, as some of the other speakers have said. But from a religious point of view, coming from the Oriental tradition, there's a whole philosophy about why things happen. And the religious aspect of that was the Buddhist and the Hindu aspect is that's part of your karma. This is because what you did in your previous life, you are paying for it. So that's the religious aspect. In terms of current political discourse, we can say why are things are happening, and there is a reason for it because there's definitely a cause and effect aspect of it. So there are many aspects. So we could talk about this particular topic from different angles and probably fill this church service for next 6 months.
There you go. There you go. Come on up here, Lynn. You can make it.
So we can see.
Oh, yeah, I can make it. Still have the one day which Mike, I agree completely with Arden. In my view, yes, there are reasons why things happen. Part of that is the nature of your karma, of what you have agreed to take on in this lifetime, both to learn and to teach. I think part of it, I've often heard the saying that I like is that karma sort of gives you the freedom of a dog on a 12-foot leash. That dog can stand there and let it, he can run around anywhere in those 12 feet. He can sniff at anything he wants. He can choose a tree to eliminate himself. He can pick up things, he can greet people. But he's only got those 12 feet because that's what's been agreed upon. And I also believe that we each have I want to call it a soul contract that will dictate to a degree when we come in and when we go out. And I think that if you are, I agree with Arden also, there's many, many factors to this. But I do believe that there's a reason behind why things happen to us the way that they do. We've chosen it. And how we respond to it is also our choice. We choose in many different ways. I think if you are alert to this, you will often see pretty dramatically signs coming to you that you're on the wrong road, or you should be going this way. And I have a short story about a dramatic way that happened to me when I was in my 20s. I went back to Asheville after college for a couple of years. I was in my first radio job, wasn't making much money, but I was, hanging together. And loved my job. I was renting a wonderful house that I dearly, dearly loved, a beautiful setting. And I was in a kind of a off and on again relationship, but it was okay. Things were good. I was involved in a lot of community groups and had good friends. And within a span of 6 weeks, all that was gone. The woman who owned my house put it up for sale, and it quickly sold. The radio station was sold and bought by another owner. And if you know anything about broadcasting, that means everybody's fired. Doesn't matter if you were great, doesn't matter if you were terrible, you're fired. This relationship blew up, like a badly constructed rocket. And I finally got, okay, I get it now. I gotta move. I'm not supposed to be here any longer. So then just a month or so after that, everything was gone. It was around there, and I packed up and went to Hickory. And that was another story. But if I had not seen those signs, I would have just tried to stay there. And okay, I can't work in radio anymore. I'll just try to move from this house. It was obvious. You think you're nice and comfortable and that you're going to be here for a long time. No, you're not. You are supposed to go, and if you don't see it, we're going to show it to you. So I agree with Armin. There are reasons, and I can see, as he put it very well from the secular side, how people might say, "Oh no, it was just random," or "It's all how I dealt with it." I don't see it that way at all. I do think that we have a responsibility to try and fulfill this contract, but there are reasons why these things happen to us. We may never see these reasons until we're on the other side, but they're there. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Madam President. Let's do a quick show of hands. Who believes things happen for a reason?
Does cause and effect count?
I'm sorry?
Does cause and effect count?
Yeah, cause and effect counts.
That's physics, yes.
Yeah. Okay, all right, that got a lot more hands. Okay, who believes that things are totally random? Okay. I was thinking we might.
I believe both.
Yeah, I started thinking, we got a both here. We got a both here. And I think both is very meaningful in this context.
I want to say something too.
Okay.
If you think we're here to learn from our experiences and to become better people, which is what I believe, then I think that in itself could be a reason for what happens in our lives. Not that we still don't have free will, but things happen to us for us to learn from that experience. Is what I think.
There you go. Great stuff. Here comes Jim.
I'm Jim. I don't think we'll let this slip by. We didn't talk about programming. Sometimes people are programmed, maybe not necessarily by design, but it happens. Parents teach you something about yourself and you believe it. You grow up believing that all of your life and you tell yourself that, well, then things will happen to prove them right because you believe they're right. And so you seek or go about proving that they're right. I mean, I've heard people say, well, I only attract people like so-and-so. And sure enough, that's who they attract. And I've read some argument that these people will find each other in a crowded room.
Oh, yeah.
Somehow.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, here, I got a name in there, I think. So, it's sort of sad, especially when it's something that's programmed into a child early, and they believe that because, face it, your parents are like gods to you. I mean, you think they're super people till you realize they aren't, and that's usually teenage years. You know what happens there. But anyway, that programming, if you believe it. So I guess I'm trying to wrap this up. So if something bad is happening to you, and you say, well, that always happens to you, but you need to go back and try to discern or determine is, am I doing something or saying something or am I sending out the vibes that are making this happen? And chances are you'll find out that, well, yeah, I believe that. So if you say, I'm just no good at math, guess what? You will be no good at math. I'll leave it there, brother.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Jim. Lynn and I both worked in the domestic violence field, and it was uncanny how many times a woman would get out of a violent relationship and then get back into another. That's not victim blaming. I'm not saying that's her fault, but there is programming. There is programming, and a lot of that programming comes from the batterer. The batterer will say, you're worthless. There's not another man on the face of the earth will put up with your junk. And if you leave me, I'll kill you. And that's often when they do kill them. We worked with a woman in Forest City who said that she got out of a violent relationship, started dating this guy, and she told him, she said, now look, I think it was a husband. She said, my last husband beat me up. You're not going to do anything like that, are you? He said, oh, those are the worst men on the face of the earth. I would never do anything like that to you. He did. Yeah. Thank you, Regina.
Thank you, Teresa. This fellowship is important to us all. The contributions we make today allow us to reach out to our community, both nearby and in the larger world. Your giving affirms our commitment to each other and to the community. I would also like to invite viewers at home to switch briefly to the main page of our website and just click on the donate button to join other visitors and members in supporting our work. Thank you. With grateful hearts, we receive these gifts. May they encourage us to live lives of integrity, compassion, and peace. We are all so grateful to all the people who make possible our Sunday services, all of our various community activities, and presenting us to the outside world via the newsletter and YouTube. That includes everyone who cheers us on by being here today or viewing from their home. Please note the announcements in your order of service. We have social suppers after the service where members and visitors get together.
Fusion Bowl.
At Fusion Bowl today. Talk to Linda if you'd like to go so she can get a head count. The Tuesday movie will be You Gotta Believe or maybe Beetlejuice.
Probably You Gotta Believe it.
Okay, You Gotta Believe. Forget Beetlejuice.
It'll be there for
The Heart of the Carolinas UU Animal Ministry will be having a fence build on Saturday, September 14th at 9 a.m. for 3 dogs. Volunteers are always welcome. There's no special skills or experience needed. FeedNC we will have members there to help on September 12th, which is a Thursday, and you can talk to Jim Arnold about that. And also the quarterly litter cleanup that Jim Arnold also does is September 14th on Saturday from 8:30 till 10 a.m. So please talk to Jim if you have an interest in that. Our closing song is 346, Come Sing a Song With Me.
Say it again. Yeah, and you. G. Sure, you can do the chalice.
All right. We close our services by extinguishing the light of the chalice and saying together the words in your order of service. After the chalice is extinguished, we will sing This Little Light of Mine.
Our band is rehearsing after the service today, and we're going to rehearse in here. So if y'all could do your socializing out in the lobby, we'd appreciate it. And also the care committee is meeting in the parlor at the other end of the building after the service. So clear out of here fast and we'll do the chairs later.
We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again.
This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, now I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, everywhere I go now. I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. All around the world, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, all around the world now, I'm gonna let it shine. All around the world, I'm gonna let it shine, let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Go repeat. As they say in a lot of bars, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.